Before we start giving Dhamma talk, we will pay homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Last week, we have already talked about the enlightenment factors. So today we have to talk about balancing efforts and concentration. As we all have known before, we have to balance two groups. That means the first group is wisdom and faith. The second group is efforts and concentration. So today we are going to talk about balancing concentrations and efforts. In Visuddhimagga, it mentioned the 5 similes. So the first one is being. As a clever being set out with balanced speeds to arrive the cluster of flowers. So we have to make medium efforts. So that means it also mentioned in Visuddhimagga very much in detail. For example, the clever beings knowing that there's a tree blooming, many flowers are blooming on it. It may set out in a hurry and overshoot the mark. It has to turn back. Then when it arrives at the tree, all other beings had already gathered all the pollens. It cannot get anything. Then we also have the unclever beings. It was set out with very slow speed and also arrived very late. Then it cannot get the pollen from that tree. So that means if we have clever beings mean the clever beings were speed or to go to the tree with medium speeds, and it will arrive at the tree at the proper time. Then it can collect all the bee pollens. Then he can flying back to his beehive. So similarly, when we are going to meditate, especially when we are going to practice to attain jhana, then we have to make this kind of balances, medium efforts, neither too strong nor too weak. If we have excessive efforts, we will get tired easily. Also, we may have many restlessness and thoughts knowingly. If we don't have enough efforts, also, we may fall asleep or we may be lazy. Then that is why we have to balance these two, efforts and concentration. Now we have another simile mentioned in Visuddhimagga. As a clever surgeon's pupil applying the scalpel's strokes on a lotus leaf by means of a balanced effort. So we have this simile. Okay, there are also some unclever, we say too clever maybe students. He may apply the scalpels in a hurry. It will cut the lotus leaves. Then maybe it will be more than enough. Then there is also some unclever students. Then it cannot touch the lotus leaf with the scalpel. Then because of fear, it cannot touch, it cannot cut. That's why it cannot get the target. It cannot finish its aim. So if we have balanced efforts, we can cut properly. This is one thing, right? We have the touch simile. In the touch simile mentioned, as if the clever man pulls the spider thread out, starting with the the starting from the end with the balance efforts. So now similarly, when we are going to practice, okay, we have that in this simile, we can also see like the spider web is a little bit difficult to call it, right? So there will be some too clever man. Then he will take it, everything in a hurry. It will cut many. It will destroy the spider web, spider thread. But someone is not very clever enough. It dare not touch the spider web with his hand for fear of breaking. So the clever man will pull out with balanced efforts. It will win the spider web on the stick, then he can win the prize. So another one is the skipper hoists full the sails in as if the clever skipper the hoists full sails in the high winds, take in half his sail in the high winds in order to arrive safely at his desired destination. So similarly, they also mentioned three simile, right? The one is in high speeds, in the high winds, he also hoists full sails. Then his ships adrift. Another one is not very clever enough, also very lower in his sails, also in the light winds, he remains in the same place, not moving. So the clever skipper holds full sails in the light winds and take half of his sail in the high winds. So he will arrive safely at his desired destination. So these are the simile of balancing efforts and concentrations. So as we have already talked about it, also one more thing, yeah, sure, 5, right? As if the clever man fill the wine tube with balanced efforts. So we have another simile. The one is you may have experienced sometimes in your house when we are going to fill water bottle. The bottle is very small, very small cup, for example, right? If we are going to fill water, we have to be very careful. So similarly now here, the wine tube is very small. Then unclever one will fill in a hurry. It will spill. He will spill the wine. Another one is not very clever enough. They are not pour the wine into wine tube. So the clever one will fill the wine tube with a balanced effort, and he can win the prize. So here in this case, we must focus on the nimitta with the balanced efforts. So here we have to know balanced effort, right? That means balanced effort means neither too strong nor too weak, as we make normal efforts. So now we have another part, the first jhana. As we have explained before, when we have already got the Visuddhimagga nimitta, we can also attain the asset concentration and absorption concentration. Now here we are going to talk about the absorption concentrations according to Pali Canon. Okay, here we have the passage, quite secluded from sense desires, secluded from wholesome states, so unwholesome states, sorry, secluded from unwholesome states. He enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applying thoughts and sustaining thoughts, filled with the rapture, happiness, born of seclusion, and he drenches, steeps, saturates, and suffuses his body with this rapture and happiness born of seclusion, so that there's no part of his entire body which is not suffused by this rapture and happiness. So he also mentioned this passage can be found in many suttas. Whenever the Buddha talk about jhana, we can find this kind of this passage. So now in the very beginning mentioned, quite secluded from sense pleasure. So here we have two types of sense desires or sensual pleasure. So we have to think about these two in the very beginning. So first, Vatu Kama, sensual objects. Two, Kilesa Kama, sensual desire. So we may have many sensual objects. So from time to time, our mind will incline to sensual objects. There will be visible objects, also audible objects. Also we have the smell, taste, or the tangible objects. Also we have a thinking, or we have a lot of ideas. So that means, in the sense of Vatu Kama, anything we can enjoy can be considered as Vatu Kama. It can be color, smell, taste, or taste and tangible objects. Also can be the thoughts we have. So when we talk about Kilesa Kama, it will be sensual desire. Although we say sensual desire, it also can cover all other defilements. So one more thing. The Vatu Kama is it come from external, also can be internal. The Kilesa Kama is it only internal, it cannot be external. For example, in the sense of Vatu Kama, we may have experienced many good things in the past. We may have enjoyed many different things in the past. We can recall it. All the past objects become, all the past experience become new objects in our minds. It becomes sensual objects. So although we have sensual objects, if we don't have sensual desire, it's tasteless, useless. So these Vatu Kama and Kilesa Kamas are the opposites of the first jhana. Then he also mentioned, Vivijja akusalehi dhammehi. Okay, according to the statement there, according to the first passage we have mentioned, also quite secluded from unwholesome state, also mentioned there, right? So unwholesome states, how we can be free from unwholesome states? Of course, as long as we have defilements, our minds were inclined to many desirable objects, and desirable objects, we may have unwholesome states. When we can attain jhana, no unwholesome thoughts, no unwholesome states in our minds. That is the power of jhana. So now we have to talk about secluded, viveka, according to the Pali Canon. We can find many of this one in different textbooks. So there are 5 kinds of seclusion. So we have the first one, the Danga Pahana, seclusion by substitution. So if we talk about substitution, So what will be the real meaning? Of course, we may have different types of substitution. For example, sometimes we have unwholesome thoughts. If unwholesome thoughts is substitutes, I mean, if we substitute unwholesome thoughts for wholesome thoughts, then that is bad. If we substitute wholesome thoughts for unwholesome, then this is also good. So here, Dhamma, in the case of Dhamma, Viveka means seclusion. That means it free from unwholesome minds. All the unwholesome states are substituted. That means we can substitute wholesome thoughts for unwholesome thoughts. That's called Dhamma Viveka. So it's just temporarily. We cannot sustain very long time. That's not called Dhamma. Dhamma means only a few moments. So if we can substitute very long time, sure, it's more beneficial. Then again, we also have to know the next one. Substitution, the seclusion, the Vikambana Viveka, seclusion by suppression. So here, when we talk about suppressions, that one is when we have jhana, or at least if we have asset concentration, we have this kind of seclusion. Now, in the case of jhana, so in our passage, about first jhana passage, I have already mentioned there. So we have the secluded from unwholesome states, secluded from sense pleasure, right? Two different things. So secluded from sense pleasure, it can be any kind of sensual objects. But now we can suppress all these unwholesome, the sensual objects, also unwholesome mind, by the power of jhana. So we have the next one, Samudcheda Viveka, seclusion by eradication. So eradication is only by path, nowhere path. So that means when we can take path and fruition knowledge, we can eradicate the defilements. At the time, Samudcheda Viveka will arise, seclusion by eradication. Our mind is quite secluded from unwholesome minds in this case. The Pasati Viveka, seclusion by subsiding. So this one is by fruition knowledge. After attaining path knowledge, we will attain the fruition knowledge. So when we have all these attainments, let me, in the very beginning, the Dhamma Viveka is very simple. We can substitute any of wholesome thoughts for unwholesome thoughts. For about Vikambana Viveka, we must attain jhana. Without attaining jhana, we cannot have this kind of ability. Samudcheda Viveka is stronger than previous two. When we can take the path knowledge, we may have this kind of seclusion. But the Pasati Viveka, seclusion by subsiding. This is also only by fruition knowledge. Then Nisarana Viveka, seclusion by escape. So that means when we can know the unformed element means nibbana. Sometimes we can just say like that, our mind is free from or escape from all formations, all conditional things. That is why Visarana Viveka. That means we can realize Nibbana. Right? That means we call this is escape. So again, we have three types of seclusion again. Kaya Viveka, body seclusions. Okay, one more thing here, I have to talk about Kaya Viveka again. So Kaya Viveka also, okay, if we can live alone, this is called Kaya Viveka. But sometimes we have many things to enjoy. We have many enjoyable things. If we live very far from enjoyable things, this is also called Kaya Viveka, which means although we have many things, we are not enjoying. We are just doing what we have to do, such as meditation or something like that. This is also called Kaya Viveka. Then again, Chitta Viveka, mental seclusion. When we talk about mental seclusion, it means we must meditate. If we can attain jhana, or if we can know only one single object all the time, we have Chitta Viveka, mental seclusion. So if we explain another way for this too, Kaya Viveka means living alone. Chitta Viveka means having only one object. Sometimes, although we live alone, but our minds go to many sensual objects. From time to time, the Buddha say it, having second person, or having, right, the in front or something like that. Anyway, having second person, we can say like that. Okay, having a companions. So that means as long as we have defilements, we have companion. It will follow wherever we go. So if we can live very far from sensual objects or sensual desire, we can say Kaya Viveka. Chitta Viveka is only keep knowing one object. This just means meditating. Then, yeah, we have another one, Upati Viveka, seclusion from defilements, aggregates, and sensual desire. Yeah, Upati means there are many different types of Upati. Okay, I should not translate as Upati. Okay, Upati means also can be defilement, also can be considered as a Upati. Aggregates are also called Upati. The sensual desire are also Upati. So that means when we can enter into attainment, it will be Upati Viveka. Before attaining anything, we will not have Upati Viveka. So this is the second group. Then we also have three other kinds of Viveka. Kaya Viveka, body seclusions that we have mentioned before. Chitta Viveka, mental seclusions, we have mentioned before. Vikambana Viveka, seclusion by separation. So when we are going to meditate, we must have these three. Of course, the last one is only attaining jhana, right? We can have a seclusion by separation. So the first two, we can create by ourselves. We have to do for ourselves. So if we can do all these things, then we can attain jhana. So in the very beginning of jhana parts, I have already explained quite secluded from sense desire, right? In there, secluded means seclusion, viveka. We have many different types of viveka. So that means our minds and body must be free from defilements and sensual objects. If we have these two foundations, we can continue to take Vikambana Viveka. Okay, this is the first part we have to explain. Then, okay, now we have to talk about jhana factors. So when we talk about jhana factors, I also have to explain some misunderstanding about jhana factors. I have met many meditators from many different traditions. Sometimes when they come and report, they told me, now my Viveka is very clear, which are also very clear. Actually, my Viveka is very, very strong. Sukha also very strong. My Ekaggata also very strong. They say like that. So another one is the translation problem. Viveka is mostly, we also translate as an initial thought, right? Viveka is a sustained thought. Then they also misunderstand when we are entering jhana, we have to think about something. But here we have different translation, initial application. We have to apply our mind to the objects. We can also say another way, we take a direct our mind to the objects. Because by the power of Vitaka, our mind can touch with the objects. If when our mind cannot touch, right, then we cannot know it. So we will direct our mind to touch. Then again, vichara, sustained implication. As Vitaka applies, or Vitaka directs the mind to the objects, it will come to know the objects, but vichara sustain the application. That's what we call sustained application. PD, we translate as a rupture or join. Then we also have sukha, bliss. Then finally, we have also ekaggata, one-pointedness. These are called jhana factors. So, okay, here I have to explain a few more about jhana factors. So, sometimes people misunderstand when they can experience or feel the jhana factors, they attain jhana. Okay, here we have to say, these are the factors of jhana. That means these 5 factors are working properly when we are attaining jhana. They are not the object of jhana. The object of jhana is nimitta. So 2 different things. For example, when we say driving a car, which is called driving a car? You have to start the engine, right? Then you have to then mean you have to switch on something. Also, you have to control the car. Then you also have to look forward, you look ahead. Then there are many things you have to do when driving. Which one is really called driving? That means all the things work together. This is called driving. Okay, for example, eating. What's really called eating? So our hand will bring the food to the mouth. Then we will choose it. After chewing it, we will swallow. Which one is called eating? Many different steps. After making many different steps, we call it eating. Similarly, all these jhana factors are working properly, working together, functioning together. They are also strong, very strongly, they have very strong function. Then at the time we can say jhana. So that means all these jhana factors are functioning, powerful functioning to know the object. That's why they are called jhana factors. They are not the object of jhana. Okay, now we have to explain, yeah, sure, about what is the meaning of Vitakka and Vichara, a little bit more in detail. So he also mentioned many different things about Vitakka, Vichara, according to the text. Of course, we have many different explanations about, right? Many different explanations, or many different the approach to jhana factors. But here I have to explain according to Visuddhimagga. Actually, although I say according to Visuddhimagga, we can also find the same things in many other textbooks. For example, when we study Samana Pasatika, Vinaya commentary, we can find the same things. Also, we can also find this one in Patisambhidamagga. Also, whenever the Buddha talk about jhana in the Pali Canon, the commentator explains the same things. Okay, now we have to start talking about the simile of Vitakka and Vichara. That many times people also ask me, what is the differences between Vitakka and Vichara? So the first simile, Vitakka is like the striking of a bell. Vichara is like ringing off the bell. If we strike the bell, as soon as we strike it, it will be very noisy, very loud. Gradually, it will become very soft sound, like ringing bell. So which means Vitakka is a gross, Vichara is a subtle. We have to apply, you can imagine, we have to apply our mind to the object all the time. Then Vichara will sustain the one. Which one is it? More powerful. Vichara is more powerful, but it's subtle. So we have another simile. Vitakka is like a bird separating out its wings when about to soar into the air. So you can visualize a bird flying on the sky. Vichara is like birds planning with outspread wings after soaring into the air. So two different things, right? Then we have a tree. Vitakka is like a bee diving towards the lotus. So that means Vitakka will dive into the lotus with very high speeds. Then Vichara is like bees buzzing above the lotus after diving toward it. So this is two different things. Then again, we have the next example. Vitakka is like grasping a tarnished bronze cup firmly with one hand. So when we are going to wash a tarnished or a dirty bronze cup, we have to hold it with one hand. We have to grasp it with one hand. The Vichara is like rubbing the tarnished bronze cup with another hand. This is also, you can practically experience. Grasping hands is a little bit stronger. Rubbing hands cannot be that much strong, right? But by grasping, we cannot clean. But by rubbing, we can clean. We can make it clean. Anyway, in this simile, we can also understand, right? Vitakka is grasping. Let me a little bit strong. Vichara is a little bit soft or subtle. This is only the way it make actions. Then another one is it Vitakka. It's like a porter's hand that spins the wheel with a stroke on the stick when making a pot. And you may have seen when people make a pot. You can also search all these things in YouTube, right? So we have to right spin the pots in the potter, or spin the pot, right? After that, we have to strike on it. Then again, Vichara is like his supporting hands that moves back and forth. That is also the simile. Okay, briefly, when we talk about Vitakka and Vichara, they are working together. So Vitakka is a little bit gross. The Vichara is a little bit subtle. So in the case of jhana, gross one should be removed first. Or that subtle one should be later. So all the jhana factors, for example, compared to Vichara, Vitakka is gross. Compared to piti, rapture, or joy, Vichara also gross. It's also gross. Similarly, sukha and piti. Sukha is subtle, piti is gross. Ekaggata, it will be everywhere, right? So it will remain anytime. Okay, now again, we have 5 types of piti. We have to explain these 5 types of piti now. Then here we have to explain something about piti a little bit more. So whenever we experience piti, in the very beginning, it's really, really, very, very gross. Then practically here, Kodika piti. This is the first types of piti. The gross piti. We translate as minor piti or minor joy or rapture. It will appear like hair rising. Okay, here in this case, we should talk about just simile, right? Like hair rising. This is just simile. No, it's not 100% same to hair rising. It is similar to hair rising. From time to time, when we have good concentrations, our body is really, very, very fine. We may feel like hair rising all over the body, like electrical shock maybe sometimes. We can experience that kind of rupture. So like a hair rising or like electric shock, this is a really very strong piti, very gross piti. So when we are beginner, we can experience all these types of rupture. Then 2, Kanika piti, the momentary piti, is like thunder striking many times, rising and aberration many times. So this is also very common. In the for about Kodika piti, it will rise very short moments. After that, disappear. But Kanika piti, it will rise many times. It's very interesting, right? But if we are interested, it will disappear. Then 3, Aukantika piti. We also translate as Showaran piti. But anyway, when we talk about the Showaran piti, it's like a wave. It's invaded by wave. So whenever we experience that kind of things, and you may have experienced from time sometimes like you are moving for like from side to side. You may feel that kind of things. Some, especially when you have good concentrations, from time to time, you can also experience that kind of the piti, like a wave, up and down, like a floating. Sometimes you feel like a floating, right? Like sometimes you may feel your body like it's moving from side to side, moving like doing fro, right? Doing fro, forward and backwards. You can experience many different forms of Showarim PTs according to this, right? Jhana. So this actually before attaining jhana, we can experience all these things. Then we have the next one is Obhika PT. I've lived in PT like flying on the sky. So you can also feel sometimes you are flying on the sky. You don't think you are always touching on the ground or on the floor. Like I've lived in. So this is just experiencing, right? That in your mind you feel like that. But sometimes there are also some special cases mentioned in Visuddhimagga. There's one Mahathera who lived in Punavalika monastery. His name was Mahadisa. In one full moon day, he was based up and down, and also he just went to a pagoda in his monastery. So it was in the full moon day that the moonlight is very bright. Then he faced towards Mahajitiya. Then he just thought, in this time, many people will pay homage to Mahajitiya. In his mind, only just this kind of thought arises. Very strong joy arises. He could also see, as he has seen before, he also see all the things, right? All the Jitiya, full structure of Jitiya, pagoda. Also, he also can pay attention to Buddha's quality. So he just because he also can visualize Buddha's the pagoda. After that, he also can recollect Buddha's quality. Then very strong piti arise. Here we say Obhika piti, uplifting piti. Then you may know, I don't know, you're like, now I don't know how to call this one. It's a small ball, right? Like it's the ones that I should say the modern simile. When they play football, they kick the football, right? But if we hit the ball, then if we hit very strong, it will jump, right? Similarly, because by the power of rapture, his body is uplifted. Then, as I mentioned before, right? Like a ball is striking by powerful person, it just fly up and also just land in the Mahajitiya. So that kind of thing happened in Sri Lanka. Then similarly, there also another lady, Girikanaka, near Girikanaka monastery. She was pregnant. So many of people are going to listen a discourse. She was pregnant, that's why her parents leave her in her house. Although she wished to go she cannot go because of her condition. Then similarly, same to previous Mahathera, he just standing on the corridor. The moon is shining very brightly. Then there's also, actually the monastery is in the mountain. So she faced with the mountain. She could see there are some wine lamps offering to Jitiya. Then this is what she could see. She could see wine lamps, she could see only the pagoda. But in her mind, she could imagine many people are bringing different types of flowers, different types of wine lamps and offering to the pagoda. Also, they are paying homage to the pagoda. Sangha also there, right? Listening to, reciting together, listening Dhamma Talk together. Then she thought, oh, they are very lucky, very fortunate, having opportunity to listen in discourse. Then by recollecting all these things, she has very strong pity. It's also called Obika piti, uplifting piti. By the power of that Obika piti, she flew up and also landed in that pagoda. Her parents haven't arrived there yet. She arrived first. So she paid homage to the Jitiya, and also she listened to the Dhamma. When the parents arrived, they asked, my daughter, how do you come here? She just say, I just come by the sky. I didn't come on foot. Then the parents also misunderstand. Oh, this is impossible. Only Arhat or who could attain second power can go like that. But why you have this kind of power? And she explained all the things that happened to her. So, okay, this kind of things happen in non-modern society. Maybe it will be a little bit difficult to have this kind of pity, right? But anyway, Ubeka piti is uplifting piti. If we're flying on the sky, like we may feel like flying on the sky or not touching our body on the floor or on the sitting clothes or something like that. This is called Ubeka. But in the case of jhana, we have the last one, Parana piti. This one is very strong. The pervading piti that spreads all over the body and lasts longer than Aukantika. So when we review about the jhana, it mentioned he drenches, steeps, saturates, and suffuses his body with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. You may remember this passage, born of seclusion. So when our mind is secluded, that means knowing one object, far from defilements. That means we don't have defilements. We can experience BT, right? So one more thing, sometimes we also have BT, but unwholesome BT, you know? If we can get what we wish, what we want to get, sure, we also happy. We also have rapture, we also have joy. It will be different now. This BT is born of seclusion. Because of secluded minds, this BT arises. So which means Ordinary people cannot experience that kind of things. It will pervade all over the body. Everywhere in the body, there's a rapture, there's a joy. This is called pranapiti. So in the case of jhana, it will be the last type, pranapiti. Okay? So now the next one is the simile of piti and sukha. Of course, we have sukha, happiness, in our daily life also. But here, in the sense of jhana, we should differentiate between these two. It mentioned piti is happiness like an exalted man in a desert who see or hear about a pond on the edge of the woods. So you can imagine what happened to him. He was very tired, exhausted. Also is in a desert. He has never seen any pond or any water. But somebody told him, or he himself see the lake or the pond. Then he will feel happy. So this kind of happiness is called piti. Piti means although we cannot enjoy something, we can feel piti. But sukha will be different. Sukha is the bliss or pleasure, like the exalted man uses the water in the ponds and the shade of the woods. So very long time in the desert, he could not see any shady tree. He could not drink any water. He could not take a shower. When seeing it, he was happy. After that, he just go to the lake, take a shower, drink water. After that, to feel fresh, take a nap or take a rest under the shady tree. This is called enjoying. This is also sukha. Then one more thing. Piti arises when catching what we desire. Sukha arises when enjoying what we desire. Sometimes we just want to get, right? But we cannot enjoy it at the time piti. After getting, we can enjoy it, it will be sukha. So that means before getting and after getting, right? In the actual time of getting, we have three different things, right? Before getting, we have to struggle a lot. In the actual time of getting what we desire, at the time we will have piti. After enjoying what we have got, this is called sukha. So now we have the next group. Frequently we can find all these things in many different textbooks. So briefly, we can also understand that piti is a little bit weaker than sukha. You have already know, right? Piti is weaker than sukha. Sukha is stronger than piti. We have different quality of, different ability, different functions of mental factors or jhana factors. So now, piti will produce passaddhi, tranquility, which means when we have very strong piti, very powerful piti, we have tranquility, passaddhi. Then passaddhi will produce sukha. When we have very strong tranquility, it will produce sukha. The sukha produces samadhi. When we have very strong sukha, very strong happiness or joy, then we can experience concentration, stronger concentration. So this is formal explanations in many, many different textbooks. Okay, now we have to talk about jhana fetters again. So today we have already explained 5 jhana fetters. Now we have to continue what they work together. As we have already known that the first jhana can overcome the hindrances. We have 5 hindrances. To overcome for the 5 hindrances, we also have 5 jhana fetters. So now we have to start talking about this. Vitakka is, we have already said, Vitakka is applying thoughts or energy application, right? Vitakka will abandon sloth and trouble, tinamita. So when we talk about the sloth and trouble, we can also say like a laziness, right? Laziness. Sometimes our mind is unwilling. So if we are unwilling or lazy, we cannot improve. But we take away abundance, all these things, because we have to apply our mind to the object again and again. It's opposite. Then similarly, we have vichara. Vichara abandon skepticism. We can also say abandon the doubt. So if we have a lot of doubt, we cannot improve, right? You can also imagine, if we have a lot of doubt, we are like standing on the junction without going anywhere. We don't know what to decide or how to decide, like standing on the junction. So now again, when we have vichara, we have to sustain the thoughts, sustain the application. No time to think about it, right? That means it's fixed already. Then no more doubt about it. So that's why when we have, right, with the vichara, when vichara becomes very powerful, it can overcome skepticism or doubt. Then piti abandon ill will. These two are also opposites. So rapture is a good experience, right? Ill will is a bad experience. We can say it was like a dosa, very bad minds. These two are opposites. When we have very strong piti, no more ill will. If we have ill will, no piti. They are opposites. Then again, sukha. So happiness, abandon, restlessness, and remorse. So we have already talked about sukha, right? Sukha is a kind of feeling, no? Happy feeling, bliss. So when we have sukha, sure, we may not have a restlessness, especially in the sense of jhana, right? Also, no remorse. When we have remorse, we cannot feel happy. These two are opposites. Then we also have the next part about jhana fetters, ekaggata, one-pointedness. So one-pointedness will abandon sensual desire. So you can also imagine knowing only one object, cannot know any other objects. Sure, we don't have sensual desire. If we have sensual desire, we have to know many objects, right? Sensual desire, we have to know many objects. For example, when we are eating, maybe we were enjoying the taste, the smell, right? The touch. We can enjoy many different things. All the color also include there, right? Color, very beautiful color. This is sensual desire. In the sense of ekagata, knowing only one thing. We cannot know many different things. So that is why the 5 jhana factors abandon 5 hindrances. So briefly, in the first jhana, there will be 5 abandoned jhana factors, right? Also, possess 5 factors. That means the five we have the good in 3 ways. Also, possess 10 characteristics. So this is for our first jhana. We have to think about this one first, right? So again, for about abandon 5 factors, that means 5 hindrances. Possess 5 factors means this means 5 jhana factors. Now we have to talk about the first jhana is good in 3 ways. So how should we know it? Good in 3 ways. Of course, this will be the last part of this Dhamma talk. The first one is Patipada, Visuddhi, Adi. Purifications, the way is beginning. So later we will have to explain how it is, what it is. So again, 2. Right? Ubhaka, Nubhuhana, Majje. The intensifications of equanimity in the middle. So we have to explain in detail later. Then 3. Sambhahansana, Priyosana. Satisfaction is the end, the end. This is the first part. Good in 3 ways. Then we also have to introduce a little bit more about it. So, purifications, the way in the very beginning, there will be 3. Then, intensifications of equanimity in the middle, there will be 3 again. Satisfactions in the end, is the end will be 4, altogether 10. So in our previous slides, it mentioned possesses 10 characteristics. Okay, so now the first thing in the first jhana abandons 5 factors, that means 5 hindrances. Also possesses 5 factors, this means 5 jhana factors. Put in 3 ways. I have already mentioned now, in the slides I mentioned now. If we elaborate the 3 ways, it will become 10. That's why possesses 10 characteristics. So we have to introduce the 10 characteristics according to Visuddhimagga. So everywhere when we have jhana, we have to check all these characteristics or the quality. Although we say the characteristics of jhanas, right? We can also say this is also quality of jhana. So now again, the 3 characteristics in the beginning. The first one, the mind is purified of the obstructions to jhana. Yeah, one more thing, obstruction to jhana. Actually, yeah, obstruction means hindrances, unwholesome minds, unwholesome thoughts, or unwholesome things. We can say like that. So this is the first part we have to know. Then 2, the mind is equanimous to the sign of concentration. That means we have medium minds. We're going to say equanimous minds. So, equanimous mind means without laziness, without restlessness. That means, I have already explained before, if we have very strong effort, we may have restlessness. Right? So yeah, equanimous, the mind is equanimous, medium mind. Then the mind enter into the sign of concentration. Here we just say enter into sign of concentration, but in reality it may absorb in the nimitta. So these are the first parts. We can also say jhana is good in the very beginning, right? As we say before, Dhamma is good in the very beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, right? But here, this one are good in the beginning, the quality in the very beginning of jhana. Now here again, the 3 characteristics in the middle. So he looked on with equanimity at the purity of the mind. So one more thing here we have to know. Whenever we have a new experience, whenever we have a new experience, we are excited. We are excited. In this case, although his mind is purified, also have rapture, joy, pity, everything, but looking with equanimity at the purity of the mind. Although the mind is very pure, his mind will not have attachment to it, no happiness. He's look with equanimity. Then 2, he looks on with equanimity at the way, that means the practice of serenity, having medium minds on the right object. But in Pali mentioned like a samatha subject, right? Anyway, the main thing is when we talk about this one, we must have medium minds on the right object. If we have very strong mind power, we cannot attain jhana. When our mind power becomes very weak, also we cannot attain jhana. It must be medium minds. That mind must be on the right object. That mind must take right samatha subject. Then we can attain jhana. This is called good in the middle. Then next one is it 3. He looked on with equanimity at the appearance of one-pointedness. You have already know what is one-pointedness. So here, that means sometimes when we have one-pointedness, we also have excited, excited. We also excited. I think many of meditators may have experienced all these things. For example, in the very beginning, when we have a rapture, also excited. When we start seeing the light, also excited. When we can feel tranquility, also excited. When we can feel peacefulness, also excited. This is the first experience. After experiencing many times, no more excited, no more excitement. So now we can hear 3, he looks. Previous slides, right? He looks on with equanimity right? He look at with equanimity as the appearance of one-pointedness. Actually, when we talk about one-pointedness, this means ekagata, ekupatthana. This is also one of the quality in the mirror. In the actual time of practicing, you can also experience all these things. Okay, now next one. We're going to say the last one. The four characteristics in the end. So there is actually satisfaction. The satisfactions in the sense that there are non-excessive dhammas that arise together. Okay, here one more thing. The jhana will arise, jhana factors will arise together with many other mental factors. We have already explained when we talk about controlling faculties. If one of the controlling faculties become excessive, all other faculties, remaining faculties cannot work properly, cannot function properly. That is why they must work together without excessive. None of them must be excessive. So yeah, satisfaction will arise because of the arisings of the Dhamma, non-excessive Dhamma. This is also the quality. So sometimes, although we have satisfactions, we don't know why it arises, right? Here we can easily say, because of non-excessive Dhamma, it arises. Then two, the satisfactions in the sense that the controlling faculties have single function. What does it mean, single function? We have already talked about five controlling faculties. All the five controlling faculties have only one function, that is freedom from defilements. They are functioning as to give up the defilements. Because of that, there's also satisfaction. Then three, the satisfactions in the sense that the appropriate energy was effective for controlling faculties. So we have already talked about Viriya when we explain in the very beginning with simile, right? 5 similes. So let me appropriate energy, appropriate efforts was effective for controlling faculties. So as we have already mentioned before, among the controlling faculties, none of them must be excessive. And now here, appropriate energy. It can also affect other controlling faculties. This is also one thing. But now this is the last part. The satisfactions in the sense of repetition. So this one is right. That means he may experience satisfactions because of repeated the continual arisings of all the Dhamma, which means we have already mentioned, right? In the four powers or the four characteristics they are mentioned, right? All the Dhamma arise together. This is one thing, controlling faculties. So because of having all these controlling faculties or jhana dhammas arising repeatedly, continuously, that he can enjoy it. So, okay, even today I have received some questions about the 4 jhana. In the 4 jhana, I can hear the sound, say like that. Of course, if it's too loud, you can avoid hearing the sound. When you hear the sound, you are not in jhana anymore. That is really very, very clear. Even Venerable Mahamoggallana had this kind of experience. Many elephants, trumpets. He could hear the sound, right? Because of very, very noisy. Now in modern community, we may have a loudspeaker, sound box, right? Many different types of audio fine. We can, if too loud, like a group chanting, recitations, or speaking very loudly, quarreling very loudly, can hear. If too loud or too noisy, we can hear it. Then when we hear it, we are not in jhana. So now, according to all these situations of the today Dhamma talk, we have already mentioned what's really called the first jhana. So when we attain the first jhana, we have to check, do we have all these quality or not? When we have all these 10 characteristics or quality, we are in jhana. If we don't have this quality, no, we are not in jhana yet. So today is the first part about jhana. So we have to continues many other things about jhana. In reality, we have to say many other things about jhana. This is the first part about the first jhana. We can say like this. Then, if we have finished the first jhana, later we have to continue the quality, or sorry, the masteries and many other things. So I think you can understand what is really called jhana in according to today's Dhamma talk. If we have good practice, we can experience practically. If we don't have good practice, we cannot experience practically. It will take time to understand what's the real meaning of jhana. Sometimes we can know the text, we can know the textbooks, we can understand by textbooks. When we can practically experience, we will never forget the textbooks because it's practical experience. For example, the taste of salt in the picture and the taste of salt touched by our tongue will be different. Similarly, now you can also experience the taste of jhana according to the text. If you can practice, you can also experience practically at the time you will touch with your tongue. So try to taste how good jhana is, how peaceful the jhana is. If we can know it, then it will be more meaningful of learning. Okay, anyway, today I will stop here. May you all be able to practice the Buddha's teaching. As a result of it, may you all be able to realize the final cessation in our suffering. Sadhu, 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 sukhi hotu.
Dear Sayadaw, regarding the cause of various temperaments, Visuddhimagga said, for when in one man, at the moment of his accumulating rebirth producing karma, greed is strong and non-greed is weak. Non-hate and non-delusions are strong and hate, and delusion are weak on being reborn through rebirth linking given by that karma. He has greed, is good nature and unangry, and possesses understanding with knowledge like a lightning flash. Does this moment of accumulating karma Kamayuhanakane refers to the time when performing that wholesome karma, meaning the prior and later mental processes surrounding the mental process performing that wholesome karma, or is referred to the near-death moment when that karma potency ripens to produce the next life 5 aggregates.
Okay, so here in already mentioned at the actual time of accumulating karma, right? Okay, so you may also later in this question also mentioned about Tihetuka also mentioned there, right? Tihetuka, 3-rooted. Anyway, so we already said Tihetuka Okata, Tihetuka Omaka, right? We have all these terms according to this question. Okay, now I have to start talking about the karma. So sometimes when we are accumulating, our karma is preceded by wholesome, succeeded by wholesome. It will be called 3 roots. Not only that, in that karma, it must associate with wisdom. Right? So here in this case, sometimes, although we have the Tihetuka, Tihetuka Pokala, for example, right? Tihetuka was a 3-rooted person. Sometimes the unwholesome mental process are interrupted. That means there are many wholesome mental processes. Wholesome mental process is interrupted by a few unwholesome mental process. It's also possible. Right? So according to these situations, here we can say how many karmas interrupted. Wholesome or unwholesome. That means if fully wholesome, it doesn't matter. As mentioned before, sometimes lobha, if lobha is very strong, powerful, alobha mental process will become weaker and weaker, right? That's why it will be at the actual time of accumulating karma. Okay, next one.
This Sayadaw also Adidhamma explains, if the mind is defiled before and after a 3-rooted karma, that 3-rooted karma is inferior and can only produce a 2-rooted rebirth linking consciousness. Does it mean one can be a 2-rooted person but possesses understanding with knowledge like a lightning flash? That is, he can be clever and quick-witted, but is actually a 2-rooted person. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, sure. Okay, this question is also a good question, right? So it's really, even some animals are very clever, you can imagine. This is practical, right? Modern society, some animals are very clever. They are unrooted. It depends on environment. They can be wise. They can understand some true things. They can be knowledgeable. So it's also possible. Okay, next one.
The next question. Dear Sayadaw, regarding sending metta in their 4 ways, as mentioned in Visuddhimagga, Aham Averohomi, Abhyapachohomi, Anigohomi, Suki Atanang Pariharami. Is this English version correct? May I be free from enmity? May I be free from ill will? May I be free from sorrow? May I take care of myself happily? There is another version with same quick comment. It is correct to translate in this way too. May I be free from enmity. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be well and happy. Thank you, Sayadaw. Sadhu, sadhu,
okay, sure. This is for Pali translation, right? Okay, here we have to explain a few more things about it. Avira means no danger, no enmity. This is clear, right? That means no argument about it. Then what about abhyapacha? Bhyapada means bhyapada ill will. Abhyapacha homi, that means may have no ill will. This is also possible. That means when we have ill will, our mind is not very healthy. Because that's why I mentioned, may I be free from ill will. This is also right. That's why in second translation it mentioned, may I be free from mental pain. Ill will is also actually mental pain, right? After that, anigohomi. Aniga is actually suffering. Actually, this means like a bodily pain. So that means may I be free from sorrow. There's something like that, right? Actually, anigami mostly is very similar to dukkha. Anigami, right? Nika, that means Nika is actually dukkha, right? Then free from dukkha. You see that free from suffering is more accurate than sorrow. Anyway, so now Sukhi Adanam Briharandu. So in this case, we're going to maybe take care of, maybe able to take care of myself happily. This one is more, is a little bit better compared to maybe when happy. Anyway, so we can use anyway any translation, but also a little bit close to the Pali tongue. It doesn't matter. Okay. Next one.
Dear Sayadaw, when practicing Asubha meditation, is it okay to focus on a bloated face only instead of the whole bloated corpse if one has only seen the face before? After focusing on the face, is it okay that it eventually becomes bright light? And can we focus on that light? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Actually, when we are going to practice Asubha, so there are many different steps to go and see the dead body, to take the objects, right? Later, I have to explain all the process. Okay, now in your situations, because maybe this one may be beginner, right? So if you are beginner, you have to see the dead body. If you have to see the face, okay, just see the face, it doesn't matter. But in reality, you have to see whole body. It is much better. So for about focus on the lights, when we are practicing Asubha, we must focus on Asubha, not the light. It will be different. Another thing is we must feel repulsives when seeing the dead body. If we can have all this quality, then sure we are successful. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, the part 1. Sayadaw mentioned it before that one will not hear any sound in 4 channel absorption. How about sound of very loud noise, including thunder, moving big trucks, or even people shouting or screaming?
Okay, I have already answered this question in the Dhamma Talk, right? So even Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mamogalana could hear the sound of elephants. That's fine. It depends on the sounds, right? How noisy the sound is. So normal sound is okay. If it's too loud, when our jhana is weak, we can hear. But like a Buddha, in the case of the Buddha, although thunder striking, also some like father and son also die. Also some counts also die, but Buddha cannot hear the sound of the thunder striking. So it depends on the quality of jhana. We may have different people, different quality, then different experience in this case, right? Okay, next one.
Yes, the part 2. For them perceptor, is it okay for them to order things online or book air tickets online using the bank card, since they do not have to touch money physically? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Actually, the Buddha don't wish his disciple to buy and sell. That's why Buddha limited the one, right? Anyway, if we say temporary steps, actually, we are taking temporary, don't touch bank card also. Bank card also a kind of currency. You can buy something. You know, it doesn't mean money. If you can buy many things with a card, you know, at the time of the Buddha, even woods or stone, we call Dharu Masaka. Dharu Masaka means made of wood, you know. This is also called money. So, okay, that means whatever things that can buy material is called money. According to temporary steps, we should not touch, we should not use. Okay?
When I said, I am practicing Buddhanussati as my main object. So how can I know that I already attain the Upachaya Samadhi, asset concentration? So which sign that make I know I already in the Upachaya Samadhi? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. So later in Buddhanussati, we also have to explain that one. So in the case of Buddhanussati, you may feel like you are seeing or meeting with living Buddha. Although you are taking Buddha's quality, you may experience you are in front of the real living Buddha. Okay, if you have this kind of feeling, then you have Pratibhagga Nimitta already. Then if you can focus on it very well, you can take asset concentration. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, what is the difference between focusing on the Pratibhagga Nimitta and absorbing the Pratibhagga Nimitta, with ways is really entering into jhana?
Okay. In the case of focusing, this is for practice. Absorption will happen naturally. We can understand like this, right? We have to focus on the nimitta. Absorption will happen naturally. That means our mind will absorb the nimitta, right? We call this one. Now, actually, when we talk about the jhana's quality or the characteristics of jhana, it mentioned enter, right? Absorb on the nimitta. In the very beginning, the first three, right? Good in the beginning. It mentioned like this. Okay, next one.
When we say absorption, does it mean that the meditator need to follow the pulling of the nimitta and go inside the Pratibhagga Nimitta, going very far into the nimitta, and sometimes experience the nimitta like wrapping oneself? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so you may experience any kind of things. So sometimes you are, as you say, you are wrapped by nimitta, but if you cannot keep knowing the nimitta around your nostril, you cannot maintain it, right? So it doesn't mean you have to follow it. You can experience absorption naturally. Whatever things happen, keep focus on the nimitta. This is more important.
Have to translation.
The 5 jhana factors are actually the 5 cetasika.
Yeah.
They arise together, or they arise according to sequence.
They will arise together. They will work together.
In the Patisambhidamagga, there is the Anapana Satikatha.
Sure.
He says the sign and the in-breath and out-breath, they are not the single object.
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't know these 3 Dhamma, then they cannot get benefits from this practice.
Sure.
But if the sign and in-breath, out-breath are not the same object, if someone understands these 3 Dhamma, then they can get benefit from the practice. So her question is, first question, in the Patisambhidamagga about this sign, what does that mean? Does that mean the touching point or the nimitta or the breath on the touching point? This is the first part of the question.
So this part just mentioned for beginners, just for beginners. In the very beginning of practice, it was mentioned. So in this case, the nimitta is called sign touching point. So actually, according to that stanzas, the same stanza also mentioned in Visuddhimagga. Anyway, now if we say the in-breath, the out-breath, and the touching point. So we have to know one of the 3. Okay, that means they are not the object of single mind. So when we can know the in-breath, we're gonna know the out-breath, right? Different mental process already. If we can know the out-breath, we're gonna know the in-breath. Different mental process already. When we can know the touching points, then we're gonna know the in and out-breath, then the different mental process. This is according to Abhidhamma. Okay, anyway, if we summarize all these stanzas, we have to know one of the 3 objects: the in-breath, the out-breath, or the touching point. As long as we can know one of the three, we can get benefit. If we cannot know one of the three, no benefit. We can understand like this. This is for just beginner. Okay, next one.
In the Jhana Dhamma, it includes in the Jhana Dhamma, there are the consciousness, the Vijnana, and the Cetasika all together, 34 Jhana Dhamma. Why is that in first Jhana there is only 5 Jhana factors?
Okay, so that means they are working factors. They work together to overcome or to abandon 5 hindrances. That's when they are called jhana factors. Okay, it arises together with many other things, but they are the factors that work.
Vanami Sayadaw, Sukha proximate cause for jhana. If a yogi already learned Anapanasati 20 years, in the past have jhana experience, but stopped its practice for many years, now practicing again, but not Sukha, although know about the benefit of meditation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Of course, sometimes if we are too much greedy, also no Sukha. Although you have very long time experience in meditation, sometimes you expect it more than you can do, then no more Sukha. Okay, so if you wish to have Sukha, don't expect too much. Don't be greedy. Okay, you must have experienced jhana in the past. After a long time without practicing, everything will disappear. When you restart, you must restart as a beginner. Otherwise, you cannot improve anymore. Don't be greedy. Okay, briefly, I can recommend like this. Next one.
Dear Sayadaw, could you please advise us some sutta you mentioned in this teaching for our reference? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so for about the jhanas, most of the things can be found in Visuddhimagga. For example, like for simile, okay, for about simile, the first part for simile, we can find, that means we can find in the Samana commentary about Viranja, about the Viranja. But we can also find the same things in Anguttara Nikaya Viranja Sutta. This is about the simile of Viriya and concentration, right? We also many other Parabha we can find in many suttas. I cannot remember how many suttas we have. So for about the jhana's quality, we can find in Patisambhidamagga. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, in order of attain jhana, does it mean we need to be free from unwholesome, through and sensual desire for many days? The truth such as what kind of food I should eat tomorrow, or why that person treated by me badly. If that kind of truth arises very often, what means our mind is not reading for jhana? Is this correct? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, sure. Okay, that means if we have unwholesome thoughts or unwholesome minds, we're going to attain jhana. Okay, one more thing. We're going to say many days. When your mind is powerful, you can cut off all the thoughts. Right? If you are powerful enough, sometimes you may have very strong sense of urgency, very strong confidence, very strong faith, or balance and controlling faculties, that you can regain your practice, you can attain jhana. For example, in the morning, you may have sensual desire, but in the afternoon, you can overcome it. It's also possible, right? You can attain jhana, it's also possible. At the time of the Buddha, there are many bhikkhus. Sometimes they just come to the Buddha in the evening, they request for meditation instructions, then at night they meditated, then the next day they were arhat. There are also some bhikkhus, they came to see the Buddha in the early morning, they request for meditation instructions, then they meditate whole day. In the evening before the sunset, they have attained arhatship. So we also have this kind of things at the time of the Buddha. Okay, it depends on personality. We cannot say exactly. Okay. Second question. Okay, second question is, so if we talk about this person, that person too much, sure, this is a really, really unwholesome mind. We are not ready to attain jhana. Sure. So that means subside all this kind of thoughts. Remove this kind of thoughts. Next one.
Wandami Bante, would you please escalate about the case of Bante Mongalana? You just briefly mentioned. I understood that even he could hear big noise when he meditated. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, I don't remember which part. Then there's some elephants are either they taking shower or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't remember the sutras clearly. Okay. Actually, this is very good. This elephant sound is very clear. In my mind, I can recall that the sutras, right? But for other things, I cannot recall. Anyway, if I can recall, if I can find out the sutras, I will explain that one, right? This one.
If a monk or anybody they stop eating 7 days and pass away, would they consider Pahanadibada killing?
Okay, in this case, it depends on his intention. We cannot say exactly what's his mind, right? So here, in the questions, it doesn't mention the intention. For example, like at the time of the Buddha, there are some bhikkhus. They were attained to cessation attainment. They will not eat 7 days. Then they will not eat for 7 days, but they don't pass away. Right? It will be exceptions. So that means it depends on the situation. We cannot say exactly. Next one. Next question.
Second part question. If the body are too suffering because of illness, doesn't have the intention to live anymore, so he doesn't eat or drinks, but only maintains mindfulness and pass away. Would that okay?
Actually, this is like we should not do like this, right? Then we must not make ourselves suffer like this. Huh? We don't have to suffer like this. If we do, this is like a suicide, you know? Committing suicide. It's not really very good. This is not recommended by the Buddha. Okay, if bhikkhu do like this is not really good things to do. Next one.
That part of question. Suffering because of illness, doesn't want to eat or drink, but he entered into jhana, then reborn in the rupa vachara world. Would they consider suicide?
Okay, here, don't want to eat means no appetite, that's why I didn't eat, right? In this kind of case, we cannot say suicide, right? So it depends on, here, in this case, we can say it depends on situation. You know, if we live purposely without eating, in order that we may die, then this is what we call suicide. But here, it doesn't mention intention, no appetite, so cannot eat. And he will pass away, sure, this is me, right? It depends on situation, we cannot say exactly. Next one.
If someone doesn't know how to check the 5 jhana factor, Vitakka, Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekaggata exists. So does that mean already enter into first jhana?
We cannot say like that, okay? That means you must keep knowing the nimitta. Your mind must absorb on the nimitta. This is called jhana. 5 jhana factors are just walking factors. It doesn't mean if you don't know jhana factors, you are entering jhana, right? It doesn't mean if you keep knowing nimitta, pratipakka nimitta, or absorb on the pratipakka nimitta, that means jhana. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, I have seen a documentary program with themes a Tibetan monks levitate in meditations. It did due to piti or psychic power. Sadhu, sadhu,
okay.
sadhu.
That means in this case, I don't know why this kind of thing happen. So this is not the practice I have learned, right? I don't know. Next one.
Dear Sayadaw, I have two types of experience when I practice Anapana meditation. The part 1. If I focus on the surface of Patiphaga Nimitta, my mind is clear and more consistent. Part 1.
Okay.
Yes. And part 2. But if I follow the rule of Patiphaga Nimitta, I feel my whole body disappear. My light skinning deep, I feel not so conscious. If it can be comfortable, but I feel I am like sleeping and I have no control myself. After some time, I may also fall into browsing. Could Sayadaw explain which way is correct way in entering into jhana and how I should adjust myself to process in my practice? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, in this case, we should not talk about surface or deep. If you know nimitta as a nimitta, it will be easier. If you analyze many unnecessary things, it will make you confused. It's not really good things to do. Another thing is, so let me, you pull off the nimitta, right? Then your body, what will your body disappear? Okay, one more thing. When you have good concentration, your body will disappear, not because of Patiphaga nimitta. Disappearance of the body is not because of not because of Patiphaga nimitta, because of concentration. Although you don't have Patiphaga nimitta, when you have good concentration, your body will disappear. This is a normal, right? So the main thing is, when you are going to focus on the nimitta, it must be only nimitta. Don't analyze anything. Don't investigate anything. Don't follow anything. It should be simple. Then you can experience well. Otherwise, it will become very messy, very complicated. Okay, next one.
Said the first part of the question, Vanami said, I am practicing Anapanasati, and can Sayadaw advise that at which stage of the Anapanasati that meditator can proceed to practice Vipassana?
Which day? Actually, the improvements is not limited by the time. The improvements is limited by the skill. If you are skillful, you can improve faster. So for example, when we talk about Vipassana, we have a few more steps before Vipassana, right? According to 7 purification. The first one is the purification of morality. This one says, okay, as a lay devotee, if you can observe 5 precepts, okay. Now, what about the purifications of mind? Today we are talking about purifications of the mind. In this case, we must attain asset concentrations or absorption concentration. After attaining one of these 2, we can continue to practice Vipassana. Okay. Here in this case, we cannot say that we cannot fix the dates. This comes from the skill and improvements. If we are not very skillful or no more improvements, although we are doing Vipassana, it will be so-called Vipassana or superficial Vipassana, not real Vipassana. Okay, next one.
Vanami said, can I practice Anapana together with Vipassana at the same time?
Okay, here we have to divide into 2 different parts. So Anapana for beginner, if you don't have any concentration, you have to do only Anapana, purely Anapana. Actually, when we talk about Satipatthana or Mahasatipatthana Sutta, especially in the commentary, it will mention different approach to Anapana and Vipassana. For example, those who attain jhana can enter into the jhana, emerging from the jhana, descend jhana dhamma, also can see rupa, then can proceed practicing Vipassana. This is one way. Then those who don't enter, cannot attain jhana, must practice anapanasati, after asset concentration, after that, rupa meditation based on 4-element meditation. Then they can continue practicing nama, then continue practicing Vipassana. So it will mention many different ways according to the practitioners. So briefly, Anapana and Vipassana together will be 2 different things. When we are practicing anapanasati, at the time, no vipassana. When we are going to practice vipassana, then at the time we have to receive nama rupa. We are not going to know the breathing. For example, breathing must be, if we are going to know the breathing, it must be tirita rupas, mind brochu materialities. So it will be two different things. Okay. So for beginner, I want to recommend anapana and vipassana together. This is really, really very risky. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, should we venerate and listen to those Bhante who are very advanced in Dhutanga practice and simple living, but do not practice the Dhamma correctly? For example, rejecting Abhidhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so in this case, we have to consider Dhutanga is not compulsory. Okay, for about their mind and their practice, we can say this is really good. Okay, we can embrace, right? But if they reject, not only Abhidhamma, they also reject commentary or many other things. If they dislike some discourse, they also criticize. Anyway, the main thing is, according to their practice, they are worthy of veneration. According to their knowledge, they are unworthy. We can say like this. So it depends on the personality. If you are going to venerate, okay, just going to venerate their quality. Don't think about their disqualification, right?
Let me see. There is an Australian who get cancer. The doctor says he has no more hope, no more helps anymore, and the doctors recommends this mercy killing, mercy dying. So if his child, if his children sign the agreement for him to get this mercy suicides, then the hospital has the hospitals has applied it, has enforced it, and and the children agree to it. So does that consider killing the father one of the heavy karma?
Sure, this is a heavy karma. Sure, very clear, right? We must not sign like this. Dukkha, huh? This is a modern society has this kind of suffering. Sure. Next one.
Second part of the question. In this mercy killing, the person will not have suffering. So would he be reborn as a human or Deva again?
Actually, okay, we can see two different things, right? Mercy is a kind of karuna, you know. If we have karuna, we will not kill any living being. This one is really, very, very, very terrible. When we have compassion, we will not kill anybody, right? Mercy is also, if we translate mercy as like compassion, right? Compassion. If we have compassion, we will not kill. If we kill, no compassion. These are actually opposite words. We cannot say this is a right. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, my mother very old, and she may have jhana experience according to her report, but she is unable to understand what is the bhavanga and jhana factor, and does not know how to check them according to teacher instruction. How to help my mother to process with her practice? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Actually, if somebody is too old, we should not force her to do many different things. You know, sometimes they cannot understand very deeply. Okay, if they just know simple thing like it, knowing focus on the nimitta, sure, very simple, they can do it. If they have to do this and that, many complicated things, it's actually very terrible for them. I don't recommend to force her to check bhavanga or check jhana factors, right? Just help her to maintain their jhana. That's good enough. Okay, next one.
I'm practicing whole breath of Anapanasati, and he felt that on the forehead, he felt there is the air flowing, maybe energy is flowing, the chi is flowing. Sometimes he felt blocking sensation. So when he is not meditating, he felt that the qi is still flowing on her head.
Actually, a whole breath body doesn't mean you have to see the breath everywhere, right? It just means around the nostril. You have to know very beginning to the end of the breath around the nostril. That means you must not see any other things. Sometimes because of misunderstandings, it will get worse. So one more thing, later in Anapana chapter, I have to explain anything from Patisambhidamagga. Then it will be a little bit clearer. Okay. So it also mentioned, don't follow internally, don't follow externally. Already mentioned in the suttas, in the Patisambhidamagga also. Which means, apart from focus and point, don't go anywhere. Puta Purokase. Only on the touching point, we can know the breath. This is the place we have to know the object. If we follow many different body parts, we have scattering minds, then we don't have one pointedness, no good concentrations. So I don't recommend checking this and that. Okay, next one.
Vandamisiado, in the Theravada Pariyati teaching,
Okay.
Does the teaching recognize the minor particles of in the place without direction, and the kana, the moment? I'm not so sure what does that mean. It's a specific term. Means roughly it means the particles without directions, the moment without seconds, or without
nanosecond. Nanosecond, you mean?
Without second or nanosecond means without the idea of time.
Timeless.
Yes, timeless. Timeless and spaceless particles and timeless moment. Does the Theravada teaching recognize this idea?
We don't say like that. If we say timeless, right? That means Nirvana, Kala Vimuddha. Panyati Kala Vimuddha like that. Timeless means Kala Vimuddha, right? Some Panyati will be. So if we say that kind of perception, it will be Panyati, not Paramata. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, my breath become very subtle and disappears sometimes because of unable to focus on subtle breath. Sometimes tension happens at my nostril area. I am unable to overcome this state for a long time. Could Sayadaw explain how to overcome my condition? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. So now if you emphasize focus on touching point too much, you may feel tension. In your case, don't think about touching point too much. So sometimes you're going to avoid knowing the touching points. It will be okay, not that much problem, but you can also know in our breath more. So briefly, sometimes you may put more efforts to know the touching points. Then when you have this kind of efforts, then you may feel tension. So, okay, briefly, if I have to suggest the one, so try to know breathing in, breathing out, a little far from the skin. If you can know a little far from the skin in our breath, then it will be a little bit better to overcome this problem. Okay, next one.
Wandami Bante, in some books, mentioned that one time the Lord Buddha held a cup of water and told that there was countless living beings in this cup. Is this mentioned in the text, Bante? If yes, could Bante suggest the Nikaya, Bante? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I don't remember which suttas. This sutta does not appear in my mind now, right? Maybe what I may say, but I don't remember. So it doesn't appear in my mind now, right? Mostly if I have read something, it will pop up in my mind. Now I cannot recognize anything. Ita wadaja amehi sambadam punya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu Sabbe Buddha Numodandu, Sabbe Satta Numodandu, Sabba Sampati Siriya, Idam me Nyadinam Hodu, Sukita Hondu Nyadayo, Idam me Nyadinam Hodu, Sukita Hondu Nyadayo, Idam me Nyadinam Hodu, Sukita Hondu Nyadayo, Idam me Bunyam Asawakaya Waham Hodu, Idam me Bunyam Nibbanasa Bhajayo Hodu, Mama Bunya Bhagam Sabba Sadanam Bhajemi, Te Sabbe Me Samam Punya Bhagam Labandu Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.